Hello dear chess lovers, Instructive Chess Classics continue today with an instructive game by Mikhail Botvinnik against George Marshall Norman. It was played in Hastings Tournament in 1934. Marshall Norman was a strong English player from Sussex and he actually won Hastings Club Championship 7 times out of 8 if I'm not wrong. He was a very strong local player and this promoted him to play in this Hastings premier tournaments against several grandmasters, including the world champions and so on. Botvinnik was not a world champion yet while this game was played. It was 1934, and we see how white can checkmate black in the King's Indian. That's surprising, right? Because in the King's Indian, usually black checkmates white, but this game shows us what happens to you if you completely surrender the center, if you let the white pawns to completely take over the center of the board with the pawn avalanche to follow. Your pieces are retreating and white can even go for a mating attack on the king side. It's a beautiful game to watch and learn. Also shows us the attacking side of Mikhail Botvinnik. Many people think that he's like a very boring positional endgame player. Botvinnik was also a great dynamic player. He was a great isolated queen's pawn player. He took those IQP positions greatly. He had great understanding also about dynamical part of chess. Of course, Soviet chess school was born by these dynamical ideas by Mikhail Chigorin and so on. So Botvinnik was a great practitioner of dynamical chess too, folks. Of course, the game starts off with the King's Indian defense and Botvinnik chooses his pet structure, fianchetto variation, which makes the white king much more secure on the king side. Also highlights the Botvinnik English setup with pawn triangle like this, right? So it's not purely Botvinnik English, but it's close to it. Botvinnik always liked these structures with the bishop on long diagonal and this particular setup with knight e2 and knight c3 and so on, right? He loved these structures. He loved to play with space. h3 is also very nice. He's anticipating knight g4 against bishop e3. Thus, he prevents them altogether. White's space advantage is already visible in his position, and black starts playing some random flank moves, a6 and h6, instead of striking right in the center of the board, and he will pay for that. He will pay for that dearly in his position, folks. White plays queen e2. He doesn't rush with castling short. The king is completely secure. He first induces king h7 to defend the pawn on h6, and then comes the next move, f4. Botvinnik says, if you don't strike in the center with c5 or e5, I will take over the center completely. Please look at those 4 pawns in the center of the board, controlling all the squares, limiting the black pieces. Black still has 4 minor pieces left on the board, which means they are cramped. Space advantage is so visible already in this position. Well, black player goes knight g8. Instructive chess classics contain games that you're playing against a weaker opposition, slightly weaker opposition. Why? Because we are learning from instructive mistakes, right? So weaker opposition, well, he was a several times Hastings champion, still makes instructive errors. For example, he's very delayed in striking in the center with those pawn moves, and now his pieces are retreating, giving white even more space. Castle short. Finally, it's move 12, and Botvinnik castle short. His king is very secure on g1, and now his rook is also getting into the play. e5. What else? Black has to play something. Although you can also say maybe f5 in this position, but it will allow e5. You see, buried knight on g8, buried bishop on g7. It looks so ugly to play this position with black as well, folks. White can even play d5 to further intensify the grip in the center of the board. It gets ugly to play this position, right? Black didn't timely strike in the center. Now they have to try the move e5. At least that's a pawn that is finally brought to the center of the board. And here, please, folks, you can start the video and tell me how you would treat this position. There's so much tension between these pawns. What is the right way to transform the pawn structure? Can you guess how Botvinnik played in this position? Folks, I very much like Botvinnik's treatment. He took back with the d pawn and then push f5. Interesting transformation, right? See what he's getting by this transformation. He's first of all opening up the d file, right? His pieces will shine activation on the open d file right now. That's the first point. The second point is that by going f5, you're limiting and shutting down that bishop completely. and you're getting ready for a potential assault on the king side by also activating your rook in the process. And if you ever take my pawn, which happened in the actual game, then after takes back, this bishop becomes a happy piece, this knight gain more scope, and this queen will also target the black king. So g takes f5 was also a very committal move. Black wants to maybe get ready for this push to activate some pieces, but you see, its king side is so shattered, his pieces are so limited, and it doesn't work like that. So white now also has a much secure king, and still all the control in the center of the board. Knight d4 is not working because of takes, and black is still lacking any sort of counterplay in this position. It's already a disaster. Black player doesn't suspect what's coming at him. He plays the move rook b8 with a small idea of the pawn break b7, b5, but Botvinnik will never give him a chance. Activation, right? The worst placed piece joins the game with tempo on the bishop, knight f6. And now this knight is becoming the sole defender of the king side, and this segment is also very instructive. Please see how Botvinnik is playing this segment. The whole idea will be to remove the blockade on f6, exchange that piece off, and to get close to the black king, which is much less secure in this pawn formation. That's why he goes knight d5, folks. His main point is to remove that knight from that defensive post. If he ever takes my knight, by the way, this was his point. Queen takes d5 puts so much pressure on black's position. Plus now there are ideas like f6 followed by bishop e4. You see the function of removing that knight from that post. If you go knight d4, I can always take twice, or I can get this f6 move first and then take on d4 and look at your king. Just compare the king's safety for both sides. Bishop e4s are coming, and this game is completely over, folks. After knight d5, black player played the move bishop e8. But here Botvinnik finds a very Botvinnikian move. He's eyeing the king on h7 while also activating his rook on the file. It's a very nice multi-purpose move. The queen will inevitably play a big role in this ensuing attack as long as this knight on f6 will be removed from the board. And can you please tell me, folks, what is the right mechanism in removing that knight from his post? How did Botvinnik further improve his position on the king side? Yes, you're a great player if you want to move g4 with a very simple idea. He wants to go g5. After takes, this knight will be removed from his defensive post, and once that piece disappears from the board after g5, black's position is collapsing. In fact, black player resigned in his position, folks. It's move 20. It's a miniature by Botvinnik. I will show you how the game could have ended. Takes. You see, this knight has to leave that post, but then you will allow me to push f6, right? f6 is coming. Look at your king, and the queen is joining the attack directly. If you try knight takes d5, you tell me, folks, should we recapture like this, or can you see even a stronger move? Zwischenschach, folks. Look at the queen and the king, and f6 is a beautiful intermediate check. And after king h8, you tell me, should we capture the knight this way, or this way, or can you see even a stronger move? We are not playing checkers, we are playing chess. I want you to look at the queen and bring her, please, to a much more dangerous post. How do we play for mating attack against the poor king on h8? And you're a great player if you found the move queen e4, folks. Quiet move with a devastating threat of queen h4, and mate will follow. Look at the black pieces. They are in Siberia. They can't defend their lonely king on h8. And if you, for example, play bishop f6, can you please find the mate in 2, folks? You're a great player. Queen h4 followed by queen h6. Isn't that a cute and lovely finish? A nice miniature from a strategic genius, endgame genius, Mikhail Botvinnik. He won so many games like that, right? So what is the lesson from this game, folks? What is the key lesson from this game? I want you to extract the key lessons. Center, right? Space. Safe king. Pawn transformations. Not delaying central strikes when you're lacking space. Avoiding such random flank moves, a6 and h6. I made a video about this. Avoid those needless flank moves unless they are needed, right? Black needs to fight for the center ASAP in the King's Indian. This game shows us what happens to you if you avoid those moves, if you let white to take over the center fully with those 4 pawns. And it's white who was giving a mate against the black king in the king's Indian. I love this transformation. There's also this, by the way, takes and d5. That was also a sound option. But you see, it's not as bad for the black king. Black king is much more secure in this transformation, right? Of course, we are still having an extra space, and if they do this, we can even win a pawn, right? But still, black would prefer this position over the game continuation. So after e5, I think it's a very instructive transformation. You first take with the d pawn, open the d file for your pieces, and then you push f5, and this will translate into an attack against the black king if black is not careful, right? You can even play g4, g5 later on with knight g3 to further improve your pieces on the king side. And basically, look at the black pieces. So cramped, so bad. Taking is, of course, quite bad because you activate all of my pieces as well. But it's understandable because black needs some stability on the king side. But Botvinnik did not give them any stability as he figured out, right? The key defender in the black camp. That knight on f6 was defending. So the whole game plan becomes, how do I exchange off that knight? How do I remove that piece from the board? And once those moves are played, the entire thing is collapsing in its own weight because the queen is becoming a giant on this diagonal, and the king, as you can see it, right? The king is so weak on h7, and the king safety is the most important thing in chess. So before you blindly recapture stuff, always look at the king, always check whether you can go for direct assault, mating assault, and this is a beautiful transformation. If knight f4, by the way, folks, takes, and no one can stop queen h4 in this position, and the game is completely over. I hope you love this game. I love it myself as a big Botvinnik fan, and the right lessons hopefully are taken. Please ask me anything on YouTube, and please summarize what you learned about this game, because summarizing is a great way to consolidate your newly learned material. Please give me a like and subscribe if you like this video, folks, and I will catch you on the next episode with another beautiful chess classic, clean win, instructive win by a world champion against slightly lower rated players. Thank you so much.